Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Marcella, and I'm the Executive Director of the Colored Music Collective. And we're so excited to talk about the future of concerts and festivals post-COVID tonight. So we're going to do some introductions to our incredible panel tonight. So we'll have everyone go around and briefly say your name, your pronouns, company, position, and your clients. So let's kick it off with Candice.
Hi, Candice Jones, she, her. I'm a marketing manager at Live Nation in New York, and I also handle publicity for Hopscotch Music Festival in Raleigh, North Carolina as like a side hustle. And I'm originally from DC, and I worked in the music industry for 14 years.
Awesome. And how about you, Vanessa?
Hi, I'm Vanessa Lopez. I am the Energy and Environment Analyst at AEG. I work in the downtown Los Angeles office. I'm currently furloughed due to COVID, but typically work in the sustainability department.
Awesome. And how about you, Christopher?
Hey everyone, I'm Chris Genco. My pronouns are he, him. I work for BMG, more specifically S-Curve Records, and I am a marketing manager, and I work tour marketing and events when those happen, but they are currently not happening. Some of my clients are Andy Grammer, AJR, Leslie Odom Jr., Netta, and my newest client, who I'm very excited about, is Broadway star Joshua Henry.
Wow, that's awesome and super exciting. And how about you, Nick?
Hi everyone, my name is Nick Hardy, he, him, from Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm a freelance tour and production manager. Some of the artists I've worked with in the past are Lord Huron, Grace Potter, Kaleo, LCD Sound System, Cody Chestnut, and the late Justin Townsend.
Great. And how about you, Katelyn?
Hey guys, my name is Katelyn Scott. I work with AEG, also Winter Circle Productions locally in New Orleans. I'm a festival director and senior events producer for Buku Music and Arts Festival and Hangout.
Great. We'll send it over to Hannah.
Hey guys, I'm Hannah, she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm a social media coordinator for Reverb, which is a nonprofit based in Portland, Maine, and we team up with musicians, festivals and venues to make the music industry more sustainable and help fans connect at events to take action for environmental and social issues. And we work with a range of artists, including Billie Eilish, Dave Matthews Band, Tame Impala, the Lumineers, and more. That's me.
Awesome. Thank you. And how about you, Josephine?
Hi everyone, I'm Josephine Munis. I'm the head of marketing at Live Nation Merchandise, which is the merch branch of Live Nation based in Los Angeles. And I head up all the marketing channels for over 100+ artists. And some of those artists include Harry Styles, Post Malone, and many others. The Lumineers, the Aces, Madonna. And yeah, we kind of run their e-commerce sites and really help them drive marketing strategies to drive sales.
Great. What a stacked lineup we have tonight. So excited to just jump right into the questions. So with that, I'll hand it over to Mia.
Yes. So our first question is, what artists do you think have been doing well to capture an audience during this virtual time? And what live stream platforms have you noticed these artists using the most?
I can kick it off here. I think it's very interesting that people have obviously taken to TikTok to create rather than just, like connect. And that involves connecting, but I think the large ones, everyone knows, like Charlie Puth is doing really cool things with creating new music. Andy Grammer's doing it on there as well with stitches and collabs and things like that. So I think that artists are getting really creative on platforms like that, where you can come together and collaborate with literally anyone in the world. So they're taking these really trying times where we're limited with face-to-face interactions, but it opens up the world of possibility with collaborating with literally anyone. So I think that's been really creative and wonderful.
I've been a big fan of Twitch recently. I follow like Resident Advisor and The Lab and Boiler Room and like Club Quarantine and stuff, and they have various like rotating DJs and stuff do a lot of cool stuff, and a lot of it's like on YouTube Live and Twitch. But Twitch is definitely like something I always kind of just associate with like video games, but during quarantine, it's music has definitely like taken over, so that's been super fun.
I'd like to add as well, Twitch has been big during quarantine. I know Outside Lands did Inside Lands via Twitch, and I've been seeing a lot of smaller artists use Twitch. And like Candice said, I typically associate it with video games, but it's great to see other forms of artists going on there and showcasing various shows, and it's been really fun during quarantine.
And I think it's also interesting to just note how, like you pointed out, Candice, I also always associated Twitch with video games, but also throughout quarantine, seeing video games and concerts sort of combine with partnerships, through Fortnite with Travis Scott or Dominic Fike performing on virtual stages, and seeing them performing through Twitch has also been really been something I've looked forward to as well. Really great development.
Yeah, they had the big 100 gex thing. That was cool. Right,
yeah, definitely.
Something we've been doing, it's not like a live music performance thing, but we've been doing through Reverb a series called Quarantine Kitchen, and inviting artists to come in and cook their favorite sustainable meal and sort of teach their fans. So it's been cool too to see not only just like how can we still have live performance, but like kind of a new view into the life of an artist of like, what do they like to cook? Do they like hot sauce on their food? Just sort of like a totally different way to connect and engage with artists. So it's been interesting to, and with like sort of the cooking craze early pandemic too, just a different view into the life of musicians.
Yeah, artists who interested in content, like especially with interacting with each other. Like like Idols did a thing on YouTube for a while called Dumb and Drummer, where they would have like their drummer and like their bassist or whoever do like music trivia that was hosted by a comedian with another drummer and another bassist from another band, and there was like a contest and stuff. That was really interesting. I think they did like 5 or 6 episodes of it, but just like fun stuff like that, just to be engaged with people and like outside of music and stuff has been interesting.
Yeah, I think there's been definitely a shift from focusing on concerts and festivals specifically, but really focusing on digital experiences. Like, Candice and Hannah, you mentioned how can, different parts of music partner up to bring these experiences to people digitally, and for them to still see their artist, feel that connection that they would on stage, but in a different and more innovative way, which has been really great to see. So yeah, speaking of, obviously this question with COVID seems pretty obvious, but just, everyone's curious, how has your day-to-day shifted from before and after the pandemic?
I'll go. I am pretty lazy. I've been furloughed since May, so I pretty much don't do much. I've basically finished all of Netflix. There's nothing left for me to watch. I've been drawing a little. I got like some free weights and stuff to exercise at home since I've been pretty inactive. Like I haven't been going out or walking around. Like living in New York, like, I walk and I'm outside a lot, but since I've been pretty much, walking 20 feet to my kitchen and back since March, there hasn't been much activity. I would honestly say, like, I've been hanging out with friends and stuff like that, like on Zoom and FaceTime, but honestly, I think like something that's been kind of annoying lately is that I have no more routine. Like, I just like, before getting up, making breakfast, going to work, getting lunch, going to a show, I had like kind of a set routine, where now it's just like, I have nothing to do. So I just, it's just hard to like make yourself, wake up at a certain time, making yourself go to bed at a certain time, and maybe have some sort of semblance of routine, because there's just like, I feel like there's kind of like no passage of time. So mostly it's just like me sitting on my couch watching Forensic Files and online shopping. It's basically like what I do these days.
I'll pick it up from there. I think you made a really good point, Candice. We are so used to, like, in the music industry, it's just go, 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 go. And because typically after work, then you go to a show, maybe 2 shows, and then you go right back. And it's like, you know, start again, get the coffee and just keep going. And a lot of what my office has been trying to do, we got lucky. We're still on part-time for right now. But we've just, everything you say you want to do, but keeps getting on the back burner. We kind of have just focused on that and honestly gotten organized and looked at different project management systems and really built out some sustainability initiatives and everything that we wish we had the time to do. We're trying to stay focused and do that now.
Yeah, I think on the merch side, we actually got a little bit busier because the artists obviously are no longer touring, and the focus was where could revenue come from. And a lot of artists have kind of realized that their fans are still very excited about what they produce, what they put out there outside of their music. And so we've kind of been moving at a really fast pace. We're now in the holiday season, which is even crazier. The artists are a little bit more involved, which is nice, as well as their management. The most important thing that we've been doing right now is looking for other commerce platforms in where the artists can actually showcase their merch, because we want to make sure that their merchandise can be found everywhere. And obviously before kind of COVID, we were using the usual platforms, which is ads on social platforms like Facebook and Instagram, and then sending out emails and SMS text messages. Now we're focusing on how can we use Instagram checkout, where people can directly purchase the merch on Instagram since they're there without leaving and going to the site. Or we're talking to TikTok because they're releasing a beta for selling merchandise and apparel and products on their site as well. YouTube as well, we're focusing on that, making sure that all of our artists kind of have a YouTube store. In the past, you could include merchandise on Spotify. Not all of the artists had implemented that, so we're making sure that we're actually, that all the artists that are under Live Nation merchandise, when you're listening to their music, you can see the merch store and purchase the merch right there. So those have kind of been the big focuses in marketing and marketing technology of what are the platforms that are out there where we can showcase their merchandise. I know we had talked about what live stream platforms are musicians using. One big one is LiveX Live, and through that platform and many others actually, you can also kind of sell merchandise, and the artists don't have to, technically they don't have to promote their merchandise, right? Because while they're performing, people are purchasing. And I don't know if anyone saw like Foo Fighters this weekend at the Roxy. They did really well in sales, and we didn't do that much advertising because there was a merch button right there for people to purchase. And so those are the kind of things that we're doing right now.
My life has actually gotten more routine since COVID. I took on a part-time job since obviously touring's not happening. So I have that as a consistent thing every day, 9 to 5. And through that, there's been a lot of time to reflect, and I've been noticing like a lot of memories of touring or scenarios that I was faced with, whether good or bad, kind of pop in my head throughout the day. And I'm able to reflect on those and be grateful for like the good times, but also look at the bad times and try to analyze that and figure out why was it bad, was I at fault or the other party at fault, and how can I move forward when we all begin to work again and have a more level-headed approach into some situations, or be able to analyze and be more open to other ideas as they come along. So it's definitely been a positive, while I would love to be working and touring, but I think we probably all need time to think and be grateful for what we do have. We'll get it back.
Well, for our next question, I know we touched on it a bit, but what are all your recommendations on how fans can still support their favorite bands or artists when there's no tour?
Merch is a big one. So I feel like Josephine can talk to that a lot, but for our artists, we're trying to get creative with merch. AJR just launched a hot sauce because our current single is called Bang. And we're just trying to get creative in ways like that. If you really love a band, buy their album. I know that's like a foreign idea at this point, but yeah. Digital shows, we're trying to do some drive-in concerts. So any other ways that you can support your favorite artists?
Yeah, I would agree. In some artists, and I think Shawn Mendes did this, he had a VR experience with hidden Easter eggs. So, the artists are really trying to come up with different ways to engage with their fans, because especially now they do have the time to really kind of engage, be face to face with their fans, connect with their fans. So like Christopher said, merchandise, the digital experiences, and we are, as a team at Live Nation, the product management team, really trying to find new ideas of products that would be exciting to the fans. So hot sauce is a good one. I've seen honey, blankets, Sublime's coming out with an advent calendar over the holidays, which is going to be great. Lana Del Rey has like a spa treatment right now. So there's just some really cool things and cool ways that fans can definitely engage.
Yeah, I've seen some artists who've been like, selling like artwork and stuff like that, or like old posters, that kind of stuff. I read like, I guess it was like maybe the beginning of quarantine, like maybe the end of March or early April. Ian Wheeler from Partisan Records wrote like an op-ed for the New York Times that was an independent piece, and it was basically saying like we shouldn't expect like great art to come out of this time, and that artists shouldn't feel bad about being uninspired. And a lot of it was about how like there are so little resources for musicians like during this time, like their livelihood and touring musicians and everything depends on touring. And so like I guess anything you can do, like buying merch, seeing what other like buying merch and buying their records, and like like other people were saying, like honey, spa treatments, anything, or any other sort of like goods that they're putting out there is definitely helpful, because like I feel like a lot of people are feeling like the rest of us, like maybe a little down and maybe a little uninspired, and because there's so much uncertainty. So I definitely think, some artists have put out new records or cool remixes, or done some like cool videos and stuff. I've seen a couple artists like kind of almost sort of become YouTubers and stuff, and I don't know if it's because they have a lot of downtime, or maybe they're like being able to like monetize their videos or whatever. But yeah, it's just, there's a lot of artists that have been like very active on socials, and there's a lot of that really have just kind of fallen away just because there's so much uncertainty, and they're just kind of like trying to figure out what to do. So it's definitely an interesting time.
The other thing I'll say, for fans that can afford to roll their tickets over to any shows that were canceled and then rescheduled, if you can and are given the option to roll your ticket over, I know that allows the artist to kind of have a little bit money in the bank, and it also shows your dedication to them, and kind of gets it excited for the next one. So if you're able to do that, I would also recommend rolling your ticket over to the next show for when it all comes back, because it will all come back.
I think in conjunction with supporting an artist through merch and whatnot, so a lot of the artists have chosen to do like crew relief funds to support their crews that are out of work. And a specific example would be like with Lord Huron, they decided to take that route, and they were auctioning off memorabilia of theirs that they've collected over the years, whether it was, guitars or handwritten lyrics or weird knickknacks throughout the studio. That only, in my opinion, supports the artist, but also helps their crew. So if there's any chances that arises with your favorite artist, I'd highly suggest that.
Yeah, I've definitely seen some people like who have done stuff on Instagram or Twitch or whatever, like drop their Venmo and like are taking tips and stuff like that. I've seen a lot of drag queens do it especially, and I've definitely, like, anytime I've watched something, I mean, I'm furloughed, so I don't have tons of money, but I've definitely tipped what I can and stuff, and I definitely think that like helps.
Sort of going off of what Nick is saying about crew, there's also been an initiative to save our stages with a lot of local venues that are being shut down and are at risk. And so there's an initiative to try to get Congress to pass an act to protect them. So that's another kind of cool push to ensure that when it's time to go back, that all of your favorite local spots are still around.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to look into that more, along with Save Our Stages, there's the NEVA organization that's helping spearhead that, and NIDO is another one, and there's a couple others out there, but they are putting in a lot of effort to try to get these relief funds passed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, you guys mentioned sustainability a few times. And that's a topic I know we have a lot of questions about. So throughout the course of the pandemic, many businesses have turned to the use of disposable items such as disposable masks, plastic cups, plastic silverware, etc. So how can venues/festivals create a sustainable way to ensure the safety of fans?
I can start. I think a lot of it is going to come down to education, making sure that we're educating fans, training employees properly. And I think it's going to be different as we've seen throughout the pandemic. Every state, every county has their own regulations. So whether it's working for a large company or a smaller, more independent venue, I think making sure that everybody's up to date on what the county or the state or the city is asking of will be really important. In terms of like sustainability of like masks and things like that, I think it'd be really cool if like artists are, going to be making maybe like some sort of like merch mask. That way it's like a reusable mask. I know, Hannah, you said you're from Reverb, but a lot of artists are definitely inspiring their fans by being more sustainable, like Dave Matthews and like Billie Eilish saying like, no, we're going to ban plastic straws at all of my upcoming tours. So I think the artists themselves have a huge impact on, climate change and the thoughts of their fans as well. So I think that's going to be something that we're going to be seeing as we're able to have larger events.
I think that's something that like definitely needs to be people need to start concentrate like figuring out, because for this entire pandemic we've been like just trying to concentrate on how to get back, that we haven't really talked about what it's going to be like when we get back. And I feel like, this whole entire year we've been kind of winging it. Like when we first all went to, I don't know about you guys, when I first went into pandemic, we were told in the lockdown, we were told like, oh, it's just going to be like to April. And like, here we are, and like, it's Thanksgiving next week. And I feel like, the whole year, everyone's been winging it. Like every, meeting I've been a part of with my company has been like, oh, well, second quarter, third quarter. And it just keeps getting like spread further and further away. We definitely like just need to like think of a plan of what it's going to be like when we get back and how to like not be wasteful.
Yeah, obviously that's something that at Reverb we're thinking about a lot, and a lot of our work up to like during normal times was decreasing single-use plastics and trying to incorporate reusables as much as we could, both backstage and within the tour itself and front of house, by offering fans reusable water bottles for a donation. So a lot of our work was around sort of eliminating single-use plastics and waste. And so obviously it makes a ton of sense that, of course, as we need to be much more careful. Some of those, as we're learning more about the transmission of the virus and about, whether like as we're learning more about it, we're understanding better like which pieces of equipment could be reusable and sanitized. And so we typically send somebody on the tour, like wrapped up into the tour, like sort of like a guitar tech or something. And so our idea is that we've done a couple of trainings already for a couple of our team members on COVID regulations and sort of best practices. And that's been sort of through an organization that's working with the film and TV industry, and bringing staff members to those sets to ensure that everything is happening safely and that people who are there can do their jobs. So we're sort of training up and learning as much as we can, so that when we send our people out on the road, they will, be studying up on all the local regulations at different venues, and will be aware of all the best practices and incorporating, all of those safety measures into our sustainability work. So those are things that, we kind of have this time to plan and think about. And as I said, as we're learning more about transmission and figuring out all the best ways to be safe and still get to enjoy live music.
We, we were focusing a lot on the reusables as well, like you said, Hannah. And then, that's kind of the first thing that was like, no, you can't do that, at least for right now. So we've been looking at, can the single-use plastics be compostable? Can we switch to canned water instead of bottled water? All these initiatives cost more money than, the typical regular, landfill. So that is a thing that we're looking at now, is what partners can we work with and sponsors to kind of offset those costs, or products, or even if it's just, those like-minded initiatives that we have, how we can work together with other partners and get them involved in our festivals and vice versa. So we've been trying to find those ways to remain sustainable. But at the same time, I think, like Vanessa, you said, education, and getting that out there front of house and back of house is so important. Even if you do supply cloth masks instead of, reuse or masks you toss, I mean, they're going to be there anyways. And so you really just need to educate and across the board and do the best that you can.
Yeah, just one more thought. Vanessa, you mentioned like the Billie Eilish straw thing. I mean, there's so many artists now, and particularly younger artists, who are so outspoken and passionate about sustainability, and so much more willing to front the cost, and to put that messaging right out there. And that's totally linked to the education piece. So I think as we're seeing more artists and younger artists who care on a super deep level about these issues, the willingness to spend the extra few bucks, and the willingness to kind of incorporate the education piece is inspiring to see.
And our last question before we jump right into the Q&A. So post-COVID, when concerts and festivals can resume, what would be some of your recommendations to ensure the safety not only the fans, but also the crew?
I mean, I've been following like a lot of like the vaccine stuff that's been coming out in the news lately. And I would just say, even when there is like a vaccine available and we do stick getting back to like live music, I mean, it's not going to be like an overnight transition. We're not just going to snap our fingers and everything's going to go back to normal. Like millions of people have to be inoculated. And like, even then, like the two vaccines that are, I think it was like Pfizer's and Moderna or whatever, like those are only, I mean, they're high, they're 95 or 94, like over 90% like effective, but like vaccines, affect people differently. And just because you've been vaccinated doesn't mean that it's, there is a small chance that like, it might not work for you. But the thing is like, being vaccinated is definitely important, and it definitely lowers the risk a lot. But, even like, I think it was like, people on CNN and stuff like that were saying like, even after you are vaccinated for a while, like it's good idea to keep wearing a mask and, keep using hand sanitizer and stuff like that. Like the vaccine will definitely lower your risk a lot, but like, it's going to take time for everybody to get vaccinated. And yeah.
On the crew side, we live in a very tight petri dish bubble on the road. And I think it's going to be imperative that the crew and also fans, they have access to the appropriate PPE, whether that's, masks or even hard hats, high-vis vests and whatnot. So giving folks the opportunity to have that accessible is super important. And also offering up training to your crew people, whether it's COVID related. I know that, there's OSHA has a COVID-19 awareness certification. The WHO has a mass gathering for COVID risk assessment test. Even like going as far as OSHA 10 and OSHA 30 training, all going to be super important moving forward, because not only obviously the pandemic is very detrimental to our industry, but there's still other health concerns that we must address moving forward once we seem to get a grasp on this.
I agree on that. I think training is one of the most important things you can do so the staff understands what you're providing for them, whether that's PPE or, detailed down to transportation, how you get, usually we have a 15-pass van, people fly in from all over, hop on in the van and then get to site. That's just not going to be the case anymore. So from the producer side of it, we've been breaking it down between staff, touring parties, vendors, and patrons, and trying to put ourselves in their shoes and follow their journey on site to say, okay, where are they interacting with others? Where are they coming from? And just diving in so we can really make what our policies will be unique to that person's journey and job on site, because it's different with, between artist relations and artist transpo to vendors and contactless payments that impacts fans. Like, it's so extensive. And so from my point of view as like a festival director and producer is, make your plans detailed, but if no one's reading them and the staff don't have access to it, all that time goes to waste. So making sure not only do you write those down and think of each step, you then go to the training to staff and make sure they are aware of it from, everyone's as important on site. So even if you're a ticket scanner to if you're the artist relations director, you need to know what those policies are. And then also they need to have a chance to give us feedback because they're the ones that are out on the field. So that communication is going to be key.
Absolutely. So I think on that note, we will segue into our Q&A portion of the panel. So first up, I believe we have a question from an attendee named Monica. Hey, Monica,
Hello.
can you hear it?
Yep. Hi,
Great.
guys. First, I want to thank you guys for taking time out of your day to be here with us. My question is, what advice would you give someone who's trying to get into the industry now that it's changed so much?
I'll take the lead on this. There's a lot of advice I think everyone could probably give, and some of it you'll cross paths. But there are organizations out there that have started, some in the COVID times and some not. But I'm just going to rattle off a few that people can look up. But organizations as Roadies of Color United, Live Nation, has also as a Black Tour directory. That obviously that's not a gateway into the industry, but that gives a space for people to have opportunities to access into our industry. There's Diversify the Stage, which is another great organization, and there's a plethora of mental health organizations out there that I think are needed and are there to assist access and gaining entrance to our industry.
Hi, Monica. I would also say connecting with people who are within the industry. I think the best way to do that is probably through LinkedIn, finding people who have the role that you're interested in or who had it in the past, and just try to gain some insight from them on what it was about, try to gain some knowledge from them if they're open to it, and some guidance as well. And I think that would help. I think that would be a good place to start, as well as the directories that Nick had mentioned.
Yeah, I just went through this process with hiring, and the thing that stood out when we were trying to find the right person was when people started something their own. A lot of times people will come up through college and have the same internships or the same course study. And one thing that helps you stand out is if you start something on your own, start a blog, start any little series where you can show that you are taking the initiative and you care deeply about music in this industry. So that's one special way that you can stand out.
Agreed. I think, I'm a post grad in 2020, so I totally understand everyone looking for a job right now, and how, similarly to how we talked about how it's, sort of forced artists and people in the industry to be creative in marketing themselves. It's the same with networking and trying to find a job. You have to be innovative and finding new ways to pursue your passion, and how to do that. So great question. Thank you so much, Monica. Great. So as for our next question, I believe we have Kendall.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us today. I'm super excited to hear what you guys have to say. But my question is, what innovations have you all seen that have been popping up due to COVID that you think will really help spur things whenever live music comes back? So whether that's facilitating hybrid events or like safe VIP or anything like that. I was just curious what you guys were looking into right now.
I don't necessarily think that a live stream is going to go away. I think that that's going to continue, whether on a bigger scale or smaller scale. Some artists might decide to do both to kind of fit into their different audience members. Some might not be able to afford tickets to actually see an artist, but now if you don't have to travel internationally, if they're not coming to your town or your country, they can do a live stream. So I think that that innovation will continue. I also think that we're going to see more artists kind of embrace virtual reality and augmented reality within their concerts. It's just a different vibe, a different way to kind of create an exciting experience during the concerts, especially now where they might have less fans that are able to attend at one given time. So that's another innovation that I think will grow within the next 2 years.
Yeah, I definitely think that live streaming is not going away, especially with so many other countries having travel restrictions. So like there are a lot of artists that even if they could tour can't. Like I know what's like Australia can't like leave the country till like 2022 or something like that. So I mean, I've actually seen jobs being listed like on LinkedIn and Glassdoor that are specifically like for digital streaming like jobs, like people needing to die like for marketing positions and even booking positions. So I definitely think that's definitely something that's not going to go away.
Great. So if no one else has anything to add, thank you so much, Kendall. And we have one last Q&A question. Yes, Lila.
Hey everybody, hi Nick. I'm the director of marketing and outreach for a venue. And so my question is, what do you all think artists are going to expect, touring artists are going to expect when they do go back out on the road from venues? And I would love to, there's a million ways we can take this. So I think from, the various roles that you all play, whether it's, merchandise or production, tour production, or marketing of shows, whatever direction you can take it in, what do you think is going to be different or maybe sort of unique when things get back when it comes to what is expected of venues?
I think that you'll see a vast variety of the way the bands want to approach it, whether it might be a band that typically would have a really big production, but are afraid that their ticket demand isn't there. So they might scale down their production. Whereas some artists might not care, their show is centered around production. So they might be willing to take the loss to have a phenomenal show. I think the expectations are going to be across like very fast and wide. You're still going to have the crazy expectations that you never think are going to be fulfilled. And then you're going to have some surprises along the way. That it's a really interesting question. It's going to be really interesting to navigate that for sure.
As we've begun talking to artists primarily around, when they're ready to tour again or play a festival for us, they've been really detailed about what our COVID policies are. making sure that they feel comfortable, making sure everyone in their crew now has their own room instead of bunking people up together. So I think, just staying on point with the latest changes in your local government. And I think artists are just going to want to have that, have the comfort in knowing that they're going to be taken care of and not put in an uncomfortable situation once they arrive.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to go back to what, you, Katelyn and Nick were talking about, like, as far as like COVID training for crews and staffs and stuff like that. Like, it wouldn't surprise me that if when there was like some sort of, plan put together on paper to give touring bands, like, this is what you're going to expect, this is what our policies are, because it is going to vary by state. And like, that's definitely that people are going to have to put out and plan in advance before live shows goes back, because every band's going to ask and everyone's going to know. And I feel like having those plans put on paper for everyone to see and see how everything is going to be laid out is definitely going to be important. Make sure that artists and fans and crews are safe.
I'm hoping that in the early days of when we do come back, what we might see, especially for indoor venues, is that we won't have that 30 to 45 minutes or even an hour wait before the artist comes in to perform. I don't know that that can happen anymore for indoor venues. And in terms of merchandise, then, the long lines of people huddled together waiting for their merch, what we might do is have people actually purchase the merch before they attend the show so that they can wear it to the show instead and things like that. Obviously, when we do create merch, we're creating different merch for tour, for retail, and then for e-com. So specifically the tour merch will probably have to go online and purchase it before they get there to avoid those lines.
Do you also foresee seating, like spatial wise, to have different protocols?
Yes, absolutely. Definitely in the beginning of the industry getting back on track. I can't say in detail more than that because I really don't know, but yeah, that's definitely going to be a contingent point.
Great. Well, great question. Thank you so much, Lila. So that concludes our Q&A portion. So we do have a little bit of time left for a quick wrap-up question. So I know, times are tough in the music industry and in general, but to shed some light on, what you do love, what is your favorite part about working in the music industry and in concerts and festivals as well?
I can jump in here. I think that the most rewarding part about working in the music industry, and my favorite part about working in the music industry, is working with developing artists, seeing the passion that they have and how creative they get in marketing their music. And yes, it's obviously very exciting to work with big names and work with big budgets and productions, but seeing how young developing artists put their heart in their sleeves and just get after it with hard work is the most rewarding and the most fun for me.
Yeah, I would agree. I've definitely I used to be a talent buyer, and like seeing bands in like a house show or like in a super tiny, like small room. And then like, not even like that many years later, seeing them like headlining like a big festival. It was like super cool just to see them like their glow up, I guess. Like, and sometimes like it's been cool because I've gotten to work with them like and see it gradually myself, like, oh hey, like I worked with you 3 years ago when you played a 150 cap room and now you're playing sold out like this 1500 cap room. Like that's super rad. So it's definitely cool to like work with artists like that and kind of follow them along their trail, I guess.
I think for me, it's actually seen because with merchandise and with digital marketing, you kind of get feedback from the fans, especially on social, if they like the merchandise or if they don't. So I think for me, it's like seeing the fact that, when you put something out there, you post it on social, or the artist posts something that we've created for them on social, and you get that the positive feedback, or even sometimes the negative feedback, because then we know what not to do. I think that part is exciting, and the fact that it's really fast paced, it changes all the time. Your days are never really the same. Yeah.
For me, it's curating the experiences for the fans and just seeing, them walk into a festival or a show and have that unique, different art installation or, a bunch of stages going off at once, just seeing the look on fans' faces and the community around it is, I'm very excited to have that back.
Mine would be the camaraderie with the crew and the bands and the collective problem solving that we have to do day in and day out to pull something extravagant for the fans, like whether it's production or just travel in general or just lifting each other up when we're all having a really bad day. But definitely miss that a lot. And I'm looking forward to having that again.
For me and within Reverb, it's always really special to see the community of fans and volunteers that we bring to shows. Just like the breadth of the community come together to experience live music together, celebrate an artist that they love, but also take action together to try to create a better future for people on the planet.
And for me, my background is in sustainability, but working at AEG and working with a variety of different departments that focus on live entertainment, it's been really cool and really great to see how much people are starting to value climate change and really making changes such as, switching from disposables to reusables, although right now we probably won't be able to do that, but looking at alternatives and really focusing on reducing. So it's really cool to see that these types of venues are opening up with the focus on sustainability and the environment.
Well, awesome. With that, thank you all so much for coming and to our wonderful panelists. For those of you who are new and just tuned in today, you can follow us at all of our social media to find out the details about our next panel. It's just at Color Music Collective for everything. Thank you all so much for coming and have a great rest of your night.